Good morning, friends. It's Heather at Push Poppy Farm. It's a very chilly December morning, and we're going to be doing some transplanting. So it's cold. We had a hard frost last night. Went down to about 27 degrees Fahrenheit. What's that? Like almost -3 Celsius. So it was quite cold, and it's still quite cold. It's not yet 10 o'clock in the morning, so it's still very chilly. We're going to transfer these two limelight hydrangeas that are in containers out in front of the greenhouse, and we're going to be putting them into the landscape. It's cold, but the ground is definitely not frozen. We don't get frozen ground here. It's never cold long enough. They're dormant right now. This is the time to move them. And I just prepared the area. It's, was kind of high with grass. So I used the string trimmer to flatten everything out so I can get an idea. We already do have a few limelights out there, but they're quite small. And so I want to make sure that I space these appropriately. And I have some remaining Art Deco daffodils that I'm also going to put in that same row. So when we get out there, I'll show you. It's roses, climbing roses, we'll have daffodils and limelight hydrangeas. And of course, they all come on at different times. And so that's fine, but at least there's always going to be some kind of interest there. So let me get all my gear together. I try to warm up my hands. I used gloves, but it's very wet and chilly. So moving slower than I want to this morning. All right, let's get our stuff together and we'll go out and get this job done. Now, the transplanting of new plants to go in these 6 containers is a job for tomorrow. I don't yet have what I want for the tall containers that we're going to be taking the hydrangeas out of. So I'll get that at the nursery tomorrow. Haven't made a decision yet on what that's going to be. But today we'll be doing the transplanting part. And if there's time, because I have some appointments this afternoon, we have still some tulips that were left over. And I think I'm going to put those in a bed, in a birdie's raised bed in the front garden that currently isn't growing anything. I did have brassicas in there, but somebody got it, rodents, whatever. So I figure I'll just go ahead and use that bed for tulips, because by the time that bed gets enough sun for summer crops, the tulips will be long done. All right, let me grab my stuff and let's get started. So here's one of the containers that has a limelight hydrangea in it. It's been trimmed back. I'm going to dig that out. This is the other one. This is a comfrey here that never got planted. And of course there's some nasturtiums still growing, but I'm going to dig this guy out as well. And these are the ones we're going to transplant. I have no idea how hard or easy this is going to be, because they have been in here for, let's see, when did we put this this greenhouse up? Probably 3 years. Oh, and I'm going to need to get a new, look at that. Time to go get a new tool. Okay. I got a more solid tool here. This is loose. So we'll see. I don't know though. I think I'm just going to have to dig up some of the soil, which is fine because it's all going to get replaced. I see a nice layer of mycorrhizal fungi in here. Always what you want to see. That's all these white filaments that you see. That's all good fungi. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, so part of why I need to take these out is that they've been in here way too long and they're getting too big root-wise for these pots. Oh my goodness. Wow. So yeah, they're getting too big, and I noticed a drop off in their productivity this year. I put these in Like I said, I think it was 3 years ago. And for 2 years, they gave me tons of stems. They grew a lot of stems this year, but they were very spindly. They didn't look as healthy. So I think it's time. Okay, there we go. Look at that. That root ball is quite large. Okay, so I'm making a mess here, but I'm not all that concerned. We're gonna separate this. There we go, and we'll plant this. Yeah, this one's gonna be just as challenging. I think I'm gonna relocate this pot since it's gonna make a huge mess. Well, yeah, very clear why the plants weren't producing as well this year. There you go. Look at this. Oh, look at that. That is quite the root ball. Now, most of this is soil. There are roots on the outside of this that were going around the pot, but in here in the middle, it's mostly soil. So I can feel the edge of the root ball here. That's what I'm going to take with me. Okay. There we go. All right, the rest of that soil we will deal with on another day. Okay, so here's the area where we're going to transplant, and I'll walk you through it. So you see over here, we've got this half moon shaped bed that it's got helichrysum, lamb's ear, some other stuff that's not coming up right now because it's summer, and then loads of snowdrops and daffodils and stuff are in this bed. On these pillars, we have Jacob's coat climbing rose, and you can see they are out of control. However, it is not time to prune these guys. They'll get pruned in January. They're gonna get a really hard prune. They grow like crazy every year, like insane. And I prune them twice a year because they get so nuts. So they're gonna get a really hard prune in January, cutting them way, way back, almost starting from scratch, so I can start rewrapping the pillars. But now is not the time for that. If I prune them now, because they actually are still putting on flowers, as you can see, we don't get cold enough for them to completely die back over the winter. So they've got tons of rose hips on them. I'm gonna let them continue to develop those. And then in mid to late January, I'll harvest all those rose hips, and I might harvest some before then. And then we'll do a hard prune, fertilize, make sure it has extra compost, all that kind of stuff, get it ready for the season. But if I did that now, it would start putting on lots of fresh new growth. And this is the wrong time of year to do that. Even though the end of mid to late January is only a month away, that makes a huge difference because there'll be a lot less frosts that it goes through after that. And then all that tender new growth won't get exposed to hard frosts. This is the place where we're gonna put these two hydrangeas. I did plant two tiny ones here 2 years ago, one right there and one right there, but they just didn't survive, partly because they kept getting nicked by like the mower or the hedge trimmer or whatever, because they weren't growing fast enough and they weren't visible. But these guys will be very visible. So they're gonna go right there. We have another one right here, which I need to prune. And believe it or not, there's one right there. This is what I'm talking about. The other ones did the same thing where they got, you know, kind of cut off. They'll keep coming back because they're limelight hydrangeas, and because they're panicles, they can take a hard prune and come back crazy the next year. But I don't want to stick one of these big ones right here because it would squash this space too much. And then we have another one right here. You can see that single stem. I would like for it to branch more, and maybe this year will send me a few more branches. But yeah, so also in here, in the grass, along this line here. I'm going to use my bulb tool. It's probably, I don't know how much I'll be able to do. I have tendonitis in my right arm and it's making it hard to do things like that, but we'll give it a shot because the ground is pretty soft right now. I'm going to put as many daffodils as I can along that line as well. And so it won't matter in the summertime if they get mowed because they'll be dormant. All right, so let me dig these holes. I'm hoping the holes will be easy to dig. I also have to be really careful because there is irrigation that runs along this wall here for the sprinklers. So I have a very small shovel intentionally so that it's not super heavy and I can control how much I dig a little bit better with it. So let me see how well I can do this. These are pretty big root balls. If the soil's soft enough, it should be a pretty easy job. Okay, so those guys are in. It was very easy to dig. I did run into some pipe here underneath this hole and I panicked, but then when I tested the irrigation, it was all still running, no problem, so that's an old pipe. I also ran into an old gopher thing that like supposed to, you know, emit some kind of sound, but it's super old and doesn't work anymore. So, okay, so it's a mess, but again, I don't care. Most of this soil will wash away when the first rains really come and soak the area. And as you can see, it's not the only problem. We've got gophers for the first time ever in this yard. And so I need to go to the farm and get a bunch of gopher traps. I mean, they've done this. They're in here. Look inside this bed. Yeah, so they're just going to town. They're over here as well. Time to set, I don't know, 8 or 9, 10 gopher traps out here and nip them in the bud. But I need to go to the farm and get all of them because I have 2 here, but they're broken. I need to fix them. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to start putting in these daffodils. They are the art perfume variety. I just had leftovers and I figure that'll be nice. Run along the edge of the patio and it'll look pretty. And it should be pretty easy to dig. So hopefully my arm won't give out on me. All right, I'm gonna get started on this process. Okay, job done. I still have some daffodils left. I am not going to pop them into the cottage garden because number one, gophers. They won't eat the daffodils, but they will make it harder for me to place traps if I mess up their tunnels right now. But also, the cottage garden has a ton of daffodils in it already, so I'm not going to add more at the risk of uprooting what's already in here. Plus, since this garden is going to get a pretty big overhaul this coming spring, I want the daffodils to bloom first because, you know, their foliage will stay up for a long time as it dies back. That will help me locate where they all are so that when I add new perennials, dig and add new perennials, then I won't be disturbing any of the daffodils that are already in there. So, okay, so that's going to be it for me today. I have a couple of appointments this afternoon and I actually need to shower because I'm covered in dirt and mud right now. But tomorrow we're going to focus on trying to fix up this gigantic mess. And it is a gigantic mess. So I'm going to get some tall plants still. Like I kind of wish I had put this albutilon. I mean, obviously these were already full of the hydrangeas and they were huge. This has only been in for about a year. So I might dig these up. I have one over here too, and put them in the big container. And maybe some small things around them like violas or whatever. And then that way, yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. That way I don't have to go to the nursery and buy new plants because I have some stuff here that I'm gonna put in those containers. So we've got this heuchera, it's called paprika. And then we've got these pansies, giant face in antique shades. They're really, really pretty. And then these are geraniums, hardy geraniums, and I think they're white. Bloody cranesbill, I don't know. I can't remember if they're white or not. I'm going to use those, and we are starting, we already have some violas started from seed. However, those have another assignment somewhere else. But I think with those, maybe I could just pick up some pansies or violas and put them in this area. Now, the thing about this area is it is north facing, it is shaded by trees and the greenhouse. It does get a little bit of sun, but not very much. So it's really important that the plants that are here are shade-loving plants. And, you know, that's currently what's doing well here. Now, some plants, like the nasturtium, who are full sun plants, are absolutely loving it here. And also this guy here, this albutilon, partial shade to sun, and it's doing fine. So, you know, it does get a little bit of sun, especially in the summertime, but in the winter, it's pretty much shaded the whole day. So I have to be smart about picking things. So what I'm going to do, it's going to be a big project, pull all this stuff away, get more pebbles to make it look good, but I have to reposition all these pots because this is on a slope. So they're up on risers, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a lot of work, but that'll be tomorrow, hopefully, because we're supposed to get rain. It's supposed to be tomorrow night, but it could be earlier. So we'll see how much we can get done. One thing I want to say is the hydrangeas, where we planted them, generally in more temperate climates, limelight hydrangeas want full sun. And in our climate, where in the summertime, late summer especially, when they are starting to put on all their blooms, we can get into temperatures well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, sometimes 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and they really are unhappy. They really would much prefer some afternoon shade. So this location is great because they'll get full morning sun, not so much in the winter, but in the summer, spring, summer, fall, for the most part, when the sun is higher in the sky, they'll get about 4 hours of morning sun up here, 3 to 4 hours. And then when it's hot, they'll be in the shade, and from probably about noon on. And so that will help them not to burn, not to use as much water. It's much better for them. Also, in each of the holes, I put some rose and flower food. Sorry, the camera died. So they won't be using that flower food right away, but when they start to wake up in the spring, it'll be there at the roots for them to access. The roses will all get fertilized on the surface when I prune them in January. So, all right, guys, I gotta run, I gotta shower. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.